The poor keep getting poorer and the rich keep getting richer. I found this commentary on another page to have a very disturbing conversation within it. Within it, most of the people who identify as Christians were saying that the reason why poor people give more than rich people is because poor people understand the calling of Christianity, or they were speaking about how poor people understanding the suffering that more people go through, and since they are more connected and tied into that suffering, then they are more apt to give than people with means. But what I find very difficult to accept is the fact that this mentality is what keeps many people who are within religions incredibly poor. You see, when you read your Bible tells you that you're supposed to give 10%. It also tells you in the story of Jesus with the old lady who gave her 2 pennies, that she had given more to the men who had came, the rich who had came and gave more than anybody else financially in numbers, because she gave all that she had. She gave what she could give. She gave more from her heart. And because she had given more from her heart and gave what she had, then she had given more than the people who actually gave more of a higher value of money. You have the story with the rich young ruler. He followed all the commandments, but refused to sell all his things and give it to the poor because he was holding on to his wealth. You have a story that bothered me as a child that said that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. And the illiterate pastor that I was under at the time frame said that that means that all rich people go to hell. But when you truly study this Bible, you see that there are conflicts all throughout it when it comes to money. Many will say that you started giving because Abraham gave Melchizedek a tenth. But Melchizedek only received a tenth of what Abraham had captured from the king of Sodom. He did not give him a tenth of all that he procured, just what he had gained in that one instance. And then later in the story, he gives him all that he had returned, that he had gained from Sodom. And then you have Malachi. Shall a man rob God? Yea, that he has robbed me. And then throughout your Old Testament, there are different offerings for different time frames that you're supposed to give, for different festivals and different atonements. And there are upon a time that you give a tithe, but it's more of an annual tithe, and then there's a Sabbath tithe. So the Old Testament doesn't necessarily say that every week and every paycheck you're supposed to give money. The New Testament doesn't necessarily say that every week and every paycheck you're supposed to give money. And many people will argue that the tithe was not money, but it was food, because it was for the Levitical priest. Well, at that time frame, yeah, that would be true. But we are not in an agrarian nation or agrarian world at this time frame. So as far as most people are concerned, the money that they earn at their job is the same as the food that they grow. It is the same as the sheep that they herded. So it can be extrapolated to still be money in today's world. But the real issue is this. You have a pastor, you have a church. This church is big, this church is small, the church is medium sized. The pastor is receiving a 10% of the earnings from people who are below the poverty line or near the poverty line. The pastor goes off and he leaves and goes to his big house driving his Mercedes, while you go home and you can barely feed your family and barely pay your rent, hardly keeping the lights on. From time to time, you may go to this church and ask for help. The church just doesn't offer it. You have to qualify in most cases. And unfortunately, when I was a chairman of the deacon board, I was one of those people who would qualify people. Well, if you gave your tithes consistently, and we saw that this money that we could give you will take you out of this situation, and then you wouldn't come back, then we might give you the money. But if it seems that you were coming back week after week, month after month, then we would cut you off, because you were not being responsible. You were not being a good steward over what you were receiving. But yet you was given that 10%. You see, if you were a good steward of what you were receiving, then the first thing you would do is pay yourself. You see, One of the greatest financial books that I've ever read was The Richest Man in Babylon. And in The Richest Man in Babylon, it tells you that the first person that you are supposed to pay is yourself. And that payment that you give to yourself is supposed to be utilized to invest in things that's going to give you a return on your investment. And initially, those returns on your investment are not long-term stocks, 501c3s, mutual funds. These are things that you would pay, that you would invest your money in, that will bring you a quicker return, that would allow you to build some type of flow of money on a consistent basis to eventually replace the income that you are making from whatever job or occupation that you have. Once you've done that, then you can pay yourself more. You don't have to work the job. You can invest more and invest better. If you decide that there are some money that you want to give to the poor or give to whatever charities, you are more than welcome to do so. It doesn't tell you that you have to. It just tells you that you should, but you only do it when you can. First, you pay yourself. You also then, second, pay all your bills. You pay all your bills, and you pay for the dwelling that you live in. You pay for the food that your family needs to eat. You pay for whatever is necessary to maintain your lifestyle. Then you give to charities. Now, I did change that a little bit in my own thinking. Before I pay for charities, I'm going to put some money aside in order for me to enjoy life. If you work and work and work and work and all you do is invest and live, but you don't go actually live and enjoy yourself, then life is not really that much worth living. So you need to have fun every month. You should have play money, money that you go and play with. You go to the movies, you go on dates, you go do whatever it is that you enjoy on a consistent basis. And then from the money that you have left over from that, if you decide that you want to give to a charity or give to a family or however you decide that you want to give back to the world, that's when you give back to the world. You see, churches aren't going to teach that. Churches aren't going to say that you should make sure that you're investing first and then taking care of your family first and then enjoy a little bit of life first and then give to the church. No, the church tells you that if you were to give money, and this is why more poor people, if this study is correctly, why more poor people give money than rich people, because rich people already understand that investing creates more income for them. A river of gold continues to flow to them. Poor people give money to the church because they are not investing in things that in reality that would give them money that would create that river of gold. Poor people believe that the river of gold will be shaken up, pressed down, and their cup will be overflowing. That if they give $10 to the work of God or to the men and women of God, then they're going to receive $20, $40, $80, $100 on that 20. That God is going to miraculously cause that check to come in the mail. And that check is always on time. That check is always, you overpaid your mortgage and a check comes back. You see, like, if you have a mortgage, understand this. It's not a miracle of God when you get a return on any given year. What your mortgage does is estimate what the taxation is going to be for your property every year. They incorporate that into your mortgage payment. If the taxes come out to be lower, then by law, the mortgage company has to return to you the overage that you paid in taxes when they pay your taxes every year. It's not a check from God. It's not a check at the right time. It's money that you spent that you didn't necessarily have to spend. You see where I'm going with that? When you receive that check in the mail, it is not because you were giving tithes. It is because you're in a system that has checks and balances. And when it balances out, you may be owed a check. You were in a car accident and it comes out that you are to receive a check. That's just the way the system works. It has nothing to do with your God. Not at all. So if you want to stay poor, keep paying the church first and you will stay poor. Rich people don't pay the church first. They pay themselves, take care of their lifestyle, have some play money, invest, and then they look at charities. So y'all have a great day, and I want to hear your thoughts. And remember, you have to always free yourself to be yourself. because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.